Hello, and welcome to the Indiana University PCCM and CCM Fellowship Programs. I'm Laura Hinkle, I'm the program director here, and we are very, very excited to get a chance to know you better next week during your interview. We're doing this video as a bit of a flipped classroom. It's been really well received by applicants in previous years. Rather than making you sit through this as part of the interview day where Zoom fatigue is a real thing, we'll do this now. You can watch this at your own pace. And then hopefully this will answer a lot of the questions you have about the program. But certainly if there are questions that come up, we are happy to answer those on the interview day. You'll have an opportunity to ask me, our fellows, and some of the other faculty if there are things that come up. Before we dive into some of the nuts and bolts of what you can expect if you come here to train at IU, I'd like you to just take a minute and just reflect on how far you've come and to congratulate you on that. Because if you think about it, not everybody who wants to go to med school gets to go. Not everybody gets to match into the specialty that they wanted to match in for residency. And not everybody gets a fellowship interview. And you've put in a lot of work to get to this point, and congratulations on getting here. And best of luck with all of your interviews and the match coming up in December. It's really exciting to get to this point in your career. So without further ado, we will dive into what you can expect if you come here to IU. So we'll start by talking about some of the different clinical training environments you would be in if you were to come train with us here at IU. So Eskenazi is a county hospital. This is a level 1 trauma center. It's one of 2 burn centers in the state of Indiana, probably one of our fellows' favorite hospitals to rotate through. You have a lot of autonomy here. The mix of patients you see is pretty impressive. We can do balloon pumps there. We have neurocritical care services there. We can do 24-hour EEG monitoring. You see people who didn't seek care for a long time and present with things that you maybe have only read about in books because they're very advanced late presentations of diseases. We have 2 ICU teams with a faculty, fellow, senior residents, interns, and students, and then a consult team that is a faculty and a fellow. On the consult service, you'll see a wide array of things and get the opportunity to do a lot of procedures, both bedside procedures and bronchoscopies, and also assist with some urgent clinics so that some of the people who come in through the ED can get worked up for their lung cancer a little bit faster. University Hospital is a quaternary referral center. This is the home of our robust liver transplant service, bone marrow transplant service, and advanced GI services. So we have people sent in from all over the state and even out of state sometimes for care here. You'll see lots of zebras, lots of really cool stuff. We have 1 ICU team, fellow, attending, and then a few senior residents, interns, and students again. And max census in the ICU is 18 patients. Lots of procedures here and really sick people. And it's a really fun ICU to be in. The nurses are all great. And this is where I do all of my inpatient time. On the consult service, it's usually an attending fellow, 1 resident, and a student. We also have a nurse practitioner who's amazing and can answer any questions you have about how to make things happen at University Hospital. And on our consult service, we provide some critical care backup for the bone marrow transplant unit as well as the transplant ICU where our liver transplants go. Methodist Hospital is the biggest hospital that we have in our system. This is also a level 1 trauma center. There are about 130 ICU beds here. The bulk of our cardiovascular services are here at Methodist, including a lot of the LVADs, heart transplant, those types of things, cardiothoracic surgery. There are a ton of different ICUs that our fellows rotate through. So there is the lung transplant services here, our ECMO services here. That's one rotation that you guys would all rotate on. Neurocritical care, surgical cardiovascular critical care, and then medical cardiovascular critical care. We have the surgical ICU, surgical trauma ICUs. So as you can imagine, just a very large breadth of pathology, lots of different team structures with this, and just a really good place to learn. IU West is out on the west side of, well, not west side of India, but a little bit west of the Indianapolis area. This is more of a suburban hospital. It's a little bit different flavor to what you get downtown at the Academic Health Center, and the fellows have really enjoyed this addition to the fellowship. So this is just an attending and a fellow, and you see a good array of pathology here at IU West. The hospital has grown a ton, and their capabilities have too. It used to be if you needed dialysis, you had to come downtown. That is no longer the case. They can do a lot of that stuff there. And it's been a rotation, like I said. The fellows really enjoy it. The faculty out there are all great, mostly former chief residents, chief fellows, and just really good people to work with. All right, the VA, this is obviously our Veterans Hospital. This is one of the bigger VAs in the region. We tend to serve as a catchment for a lot of the smaller VAs that need to send patients who are sicker out. So we have two teams. There's a consult team and an ICU team. There are fellows dedicated to each of those two teams, but one attending to staff both. The census is a little bit variable, but you can do a lot in this ICU. You can do CVVH, you can have balloon pumps, etc. The consult service tends to be pretty busy. And you see a good mix of different diagnoses. It's not all COPD exacerbations and things like that. There's a pretty good mix of things on the service here. The consult fellow also reads the PFTs and gets the opportunity to do a lot of the outpatient bronchoscopies that are being done. And this is where you get a lot of your EBUS exposure, is here at the VA. Just to give you a sense of where things are in relation to each other, you can see the VA is in the upper left corner of your screen. It's literally right across the street from Eskenazi Hospital, so about a 5-minute walk door to door. Off to the right side of your screen, you can see IU Hospital is over there. That's about an 8 to 10 minute walk to get from University over to Eskenazi, depending on how quickly you're walking. Obviously, West is not on this map, and Methodist is not either on this one, but it's about a 5-minute drive from University. Now, we do have a new IU Health downtown hospital that is being built. It is about a $2 billion project. It's one of the very biggest hospital building projects in the country, is what I have been told. And this is going to be opening late 2027. So December-ish is what I've been told. So if you do match here with us, you would get to be part of the move and part of being able to be some of the first people to practice in this new hospital, which would be pretty cool. This is, again, just a map. You can see at the bottom there, I've got the VA start all the way over at like 9 o'clock at the bottom there. Then 7 o'clock is Eskenazi. University is down at 6 o'clock. And then up at, call it 2 o'clock-ish, that's where Methodist is, and that's where the new hospital is going to be. It's coming up right next to Methodist Hospital. The QR code here takes you to the IU Health construction update page if you want to take a look at that and just see how things are going. This is an architect's rendering of what the new hospital is going to look like. The first floor will have some retail. Then the next several floors will be surgical areas, endoscopy, some clinics are going to be there, pulmonary rehab, those types of things will be in the building, radiology. And then those 3 towers that you see, once you get up past the base, one of them is going to be all ICU beds. The one in the middle will be step-down beds, and there are flex beds that can go either way. They can be med-surg or they can be ICU. And then the third tower is going to be all med-surg beds. So lots of cool stuff going there. The outer part of the building is up. They're just still working on the inner parts, getting everything ready to go. This is just a short video that I found online. It's on the page where they have the construction updates. They were putting the trident on the building, but I just thought it gave a nice look of what this kind of looks like now that it's, at least the outside of it is done. We are super, super excited about the new building and bringing the two hospitals together. I think both from a patient care standpoint and from a education standpoint, this is going to be a big plus for the program and for our patients as well. So just a quick word about the electronic medical record. Eskenazi is well established on Epic. They have been on Epic for, I want to say it's been like probably no closer to 10 years is my guess, somewhere around there. IU Health, we are currently on Cerner at all of our IU Health hospitals, so University, Methodist, and IU West. But we are transitioning to Epic in the first quarter of 2027. May 1st is our date that, ready or not, we're rolling live. And then the VA is currently on CPRS, like every VA across the country, but it is transitioning to Cerner, I believe, in September of this year. So by the time you joined our program, if you were to match here with us, we would already be past the transition points, and IU Health would just be on Epic and the VA would be on Cerner. All of those are accessible remotely too. So if you're thinking about home call and things like that, you can still access the EMR and all the radiology and everything else. So let's shift gears a little bit and look at what your schedule would look like. So this is the overview for PCCM. You can see you start off with an immersion month in July. This is the same immersion month that the CCM fellows do, with a few exceptions. We don't make the CCM fellows sit through pulmonary function testing and some other just pulmonary specific things like that. But immersion month is a combination of didactics to help you kind of hit the ground running. There are simulation afternoons where you'll do central lines, airways, chest tubes. We've got a bronchoscopy day where you can do some practice EBUS. You can fish nuts and raisins out of airways. It's a lot of fun. Then you can see for the rest of the year, you got various ICU rotations, consult rotations. There's an ambulatory block that's very similar to ambulatory when you were a resident. It's just a smattering of subspecialty clinics that you can rotate to take kind of a deep dive into different areas of pulmonary medicine. You've got the Methodist CMCC, that's our medical cardiology critical care, and bronch PFT. Those switch in 1 week increments. So you're on Methodist CMCC for a week, then bronch PFT for a week. The bronch PFT rotation is just what it sounds like. You read all the PFTs at university, and then you also do the outpatient bronchoscopies, and this is where you get a chance to do endobronchial valve placements, tracheal stents. You can do the robotic bronchoscopies, things like that. And we don't have IP fellows here, so the pulmonary fellows are able to really jump in and do a lot with these. There's also a career development block. That's a 2-week period of time that's spaced out through your first year to really just put a pause on the clinical work and let you think about what you want your career to look like, what you want the last 1 or 2 years of fellowship to look like, to really set yourself up for the career that you want. And then you can see the second and third years. The amount of clinical time versus research and or elective time varies depending on your career plans and fellowship track. The new rotations, your second and third year, are transplant/ECMO, university ICU, and then Eskenazi consults. Third years when we usually have you guys do the neuro ICU and CV ICU, the surgical CV ICU, I should say. For CCM, very similar, minus the ambulatory and pulmonary consult months. Immersion month in July, your first year, and then various ICU months. You can see that you do transplant/ECMO your first year instead of having to wait till your second year. You've got a SICU rotation. That research/elective incorporates both the career development block as well as a month of elective time that you have. The CCM fellows will spend some time on Methodist nights, which you don't work every night during the month. It's like 14 nights, and you get to help run traffic, do procedures, staff new admissions with the NPs. The fellows who have done it have said it's a really cool experience. Our night crew at Methodist is awesome. The faculty are great, and they're a lot of fun. Methodist Core is the constellation of ICUs, things like neurocritical care, the CV surgery unit, surgical trauma ICU, etc., that you would rotate through. And then the second year, very similar to the first year with the addition of uni ICU. And then again, research and or elective time will depend on your career plans and the fellowship track that you're on. So elective opportunities, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just to give you an idea. The ones that are starred are things that are already required as part of your fellowship, but you could do them again for a more in-depth or more personalized exposure in these areas. Some things not on this list that our fellows have done in the past include nephrology, critical care. There is a nephrologist at Methodist who did a critical care fellowship. He practices nephrology, but he pretty much exclusively rounds in the ICUs over there. So our fellows have really enjoyed working with him just to learn more about how CVVH works, how do you decide which modality to choose, all of those types of things. Another one that one of our fellows did, who was interested in neuromuscular diseases, he wanted more exposure to long-term vent weaning after people leave the ICU. So he did a rotation at an LTAC and was able to get some other exposure to, okay, here's what you do for a longer-term vent wean when you've got somebody who's been sick for a long time, they're trached, how do we get them off the vent? This is kind of an overview of what call looks like. All of the Methodist ICUs are shift-based, so you're going to have shifts that generally end at 7 p.m. If you're on days. If you're on nights, they're generally 7 p to 7 a. Obviously, you'll need to change over before you can leave, but that's, as a general rule, that's how those work. The Eskenazi ICU and Eskenazi Pulmonary Consult Fellow will all share in home call. You work one weekend, you cover call that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you just have 4 other nights that you take home call over the course of the month, so it equals 7 nights out of the month. There's another off-service senior fellow that covers the last 7 nights. If you're doing the math and you're like, this is only 3 fellows and it doesn't add up. University consults and university ICU. We have more of a shift model there. So there is either a fellow or faculty in-house covering overnight. So on the consult service, the fellows stay until 5, but there's no weekends, there's no overnight call. In the ICU, the fellows are in-house until 7 during the week, 5 p.m. on weekends. And then we've broken that up into 2-week blocks instead of 4-week blocks for Uni ICU. And you'll work one of the 2 weekends associated with that block. At IU West, you're in-house. There's no overnight call. They have APPs in-house and then a PCCM attending who takes home call for that. So you are not on call for that rotation. I put in-house until question mark because we don't have 24/7 in-house coverage with faculty or fellows. So it just kind of depends. A lot of times the fellows are gone by like 4 in the afternoon. But if it's really busy, they've been there till about 7. Saturdays you're off. And then Sundays is the long day. That's where you work 7A to 9P to cover that gap in the afternoon between the day attending going home and the night NP, or APP I should say, coming in. But that's the only call that you have there, is that one long day. VAICU and consults, those 2 fellows at the VA will alternate home call, so it goes Friday through Friday, and then you'll cover the weekend associated with your calls. So that month you're working 2 weekends, you've got the home call. There are nights during that week, though, that there are moonlighters covering the ICU, and those moonlighters are usually your co-fellows, so obviously those nights you're not going to get any calls. So what this adds up to is, as you can see here, your first year about 15 weekends and 60 nights of home call. There's a little bit less of the home call if you are CCM because you don't have as much time at the VA and at Eskenazi. But you do have that week of in-house coverage on nights. So you do have that. And then F2 and F3, the call is a little bit lighter. It's 11 weekends and about 20 nights of home call. And again, CCM has the 14 nights of in-house coverage. So the way our teams work is our fellows have a really high degree of autonomy. Everybody, we're there to support you, but at Eskenazi and the VA, you are not going to staff any of the admissions with the attendings unless you have questions, in which case we're more than happy to talk to you and help you think through things. Or if you admit somebody that you think is likely to die before morning and then you may want to call your attending and just run through things, make sure you haven't missed anything, just so they're aware. The residents will call you to staff the admissions just through the night, but yeah, you don't have to call the attending with anything. If you're at Methodist, there is generally somebody there all the time, and you will be staffing stuff with them. We do have big changes coming. As I said, we have a new academic health center that's being built, and that's going to end up merging University Methodist hospitals. So if you match here with us, this means about halfway through the year, those two hospitals are going to move into the new building. And this means we're going to have a new set of rotations as we merge some of the University Methodist rotations. Some of the existing rotations we have may not exist in the new hospital, just with new unit design and service line structuring and things like that. I don't know what this is going to look like yet. We are still waiting to hear from IU Health what our division is responsible to cover. And once we have that piece of things down, then we can start designing what are these teams going to look like covering these units, and what does this mean for the fellows. So I don't have answers. Realistically, I'm not going to have any answers on that until after the first of the year. But I can promise you that the committee that is looking to design the service line, design what these rotations are going to look like, there is very strong representation on that committee of people who have they are very education minded and a very strong fellow focus. We actually have one of our chief fellows also sitting on this committee to provide fellow input as we design things. So I think this is ultimately, like I've said before, going to be absolutely great. It will just be, there will be growing pains, but I think at the end of the day, this is going to be fantastic for us and for our patients. So this is a sample end of fellowship procedure log from a PCCM fellow. You can see the numbers of procedures there. I will say for CCM, those numbers, obviously you won't have as much bronchoscopy, you won't have any EBUS, but a lot of the other numbers, even with one less year of training, they're usually fairly close. As far as additional procedural opportunities, these are not required parts of fellowship, but if any of the PCCM fellows are interested in getting their ion robotic bronchoscopy certification, we have plenty of bronchoscopy or robotic bronchoscopy procedures, and everybody who has wanted to do that so far has been able to get signed off and do the prerequisite number of robotic bronchoscopies to get signed off on this. So that is one option. For both PCCM and CCM, there is a free ECMO course that if you complete that, and then you would have to take some additional transplant/ECMO rotations, and we would focus your time on that rotation on the ECMO piece to get enough bedside hours to be eligible to sit for the LSO exam. But if you wanted to be certified in ECMO, you would be able to do that. We won't pay for the exam, but we'll get you all the training you need to be eligible to sit for it. So shifting gears a little bit, this is what the clinic schedule would look like for the PCCM fellows. Everybody has an Eskenazi clinic. That is our safety net hospital. So everybody has that, but it alternates every other week with a clinic at another site. So just as an example here, I put in an IE West clinic. So some of these are Gen Pulm clinics at other sites, but you also have the opportunity to do a subspecialty clinic in any of these areas: severe asthma, cystic fibrosis, interstitial lung disease. You can read the list. So you do have the option of switching into one of these subspecialty clinics to gain additional exposure in that field. So conferences. So on Mondays, we have our research conference at 12 p.m. Tuesday, this is primarily for those people who are on the T32 training grant, but there is a T32 journal club that's once a month at 12. I think it's the second Tuesday of the month, if I remember correctly. Fellows Conference is our dedicated curricular time for our fellows, mostly pulmonary and CCM topics, but sometimes we'll have somebody come in and talk about finding your first job. Or as an example, this week we had a contract attorney come talk about negotiating your first physician contract. So we have some of those things as well. this is all, we provide lunch, and this is all time that the fellows do not have to present these conferences, with the exception of board review. We do have the fellows put together board review questions, but other than that, this is all stuff that is just learning for you guys. Thursday is our chess conference. That's our division grand rounds. Usually it is at 7:30 in the morning. For interviews this year, we've moved it to noon for a host of reasons that I will not bore you with, but normally it's at 7:30. Every month, one of those chess conference days is our journal club day. And then on Fridays, this is the Methodist chess conference and journal club day, and that's on alternating Fridays at noon. If I didn't already say this, first year fellows will do about 4 presentations per year. You'll do the Thursday chess conference and journal club, and then a Friday chess conference and journal club at Methodist. So other parts of the curriculum, all of our first year fellows get critical care communications training during the course of their first year. We do an annual research retreat where all of the fellows are excused from service and come together. The third years provide updates on the scholarly work that they've been doing. The second years do a podium presentation that's short, like 8 minutes, to tell people about what their proposed project is and get some feedback. And then the first years just get to show up and attend and just see what this is about, see what the other fellows are doing, and learn from all of that. The career development block I've already mentioned. And then there is an advanced airway course that we do in the second half of the year that all of the fellows are welcome to come to, where we do some of the halo type procedures. So vacation, you do get 4 weeks of paid vacation, and we also provide paid time off around the holidays that does not count toward your vacation time. So just something there to look forward to. We split it up with coverage so that all of the fellows across all years are able to have some time with family. Other benefits here at IU, medical and dental insurance is fully paid for. You do get paid family leave. There is free parking at all of our hospitals. And then when you are on any of the IU Health services, even if you are not taking call, they will provide you with a meal allowance. At Eskenazi, I think you get a discount for purchasing food in the cafeteria, and I don't believe there's anything really at the VA. If you want any additional details about the dental insurance, medical insurance, all of that, if you visit the IUGME website, there's a lot more information about that there. I'm going to briefly touch on fellowship pathways. So we do offer an NIH T32 training pathway. This is for people who their career goal is to be a physician scientist. It will require an additional year of training. So if you're PCCM, you will have a 4th year. If you're CCM, you will have a 3rd year. But this is a great option to really get you set up well to apply for your first grant and have a good start to your career as a physician scientist. Some of the GME pathways, they're offered to all GME trainees, include the clinical educator training pathway for individuals interested in med ed. There's a global health pathway, health equity training, and then leadership training. If you go to the IUGME website, there's more detail on all of these there. If you are a PCCM fellow, you would not apply to any of these until like January or February of your first year with us. If you are a CCM fellow and you are interested in doing this, once you match here, make sure you let me know, because then I can make sure you get the application before you even start, because you'll need to start it during your first year. We also have before I move on, we have a very well-established relationship with the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital that is in Kenya. It's part of AMPATH. So even if you didn't do the global health pathway, if you are very interested in global health, we actually have a faculty member who is a physician scientist, and she is doing a lot of her work in Kenya. And this is something that we would be able to easily facilitate. Other things, if none of those pathways really seem like they're going to help you get where you want to be as faculty on the other side of fellowship, you can get certificates or degrees in education, business, all of these other areas. We also have the SITE program, which is something if you're interested in being a clinical researcher. That is a 2-year program that you can do with some discounted tuition and whatnot during your second and third or third and fourth years of fellowship if you're on the T32 pathway. I put the QR code here to give you a link to what some of these other opportunities are. So what our fellows do. So this last year we had 2 peer-reviewed publications. I know there's several more being reviewed, they're just not published yet. 8 national conference presentations. There were a couple of local conference presentations as well outside of our division conferences. All of our fellows participated in research. All of them participated in teaching presentations. We've had several of our fellows get board certification in critical care echocardiography. One of our recent graduates actually did it as a second-year fellow, which is pretty impressive. We've had a couple of our fellows now sit for the ELSO certification to be able to do ECMO, and they were successful in that. And then a lot of our fellows are members of various national committees depending on what their interests are. If you look at where our graduates go, I have the list here. If you look at where people went over the last 5 years, about 40% went into private practice. The other 60% went into academics. You can see the breakdown between how many were doing clinical work, how many were doing research. We had one who went on to an IP fellowship to get some additional training, and he is now in an academic position at University of Cincinnati. And after training, about 60% of our fellows end up taking a position somewhere in the state of Indiana, not necessarily within IU Health, but somewhere here in the state. So I think this is honestly my favorite part of the division. It's the people. This is what really I think sets our division apart from some others. It feels very much like family. So this is our current leadership team. You have Cindy Brown, who is our division chief. Banks, VJ, and Christian are our 3 chief fellows this year. Banks and VJ are PCCM. Christian is CCM. There's me with my husband. Looking at the bottom row there, Evan Tomkowitz is our APD for the CCM track. Brent Bagley is in charge of curriculum. He helps develop the immersion month in July, and that's him with his dad and his little boy. Edwin Jackson is the procedural competency and ultrasound guru. If you have not already signed up, you can for his ultrasound quizzes, and those will come to an email box near you. And a lot of people, both in IU and outside of IU, have enjoyed working through some of those. And then Nick Iannazzo, who is our ambulatory AP. So if you've never been to Indianapolis, it is honestly a great place to live. Some reasons to think about Indy as a good place you would want to be. One, the cost of living is really very reasonable. A 2-bedroom apartment averages about $1,200 a month. A lot of our fellows with families also will just choose to buy a home here during fellowship, and there is a lot of stuff to do. Some examples of things that people really enjoy doing here in Indy. One is the Indy 500, which is the greatest spectacle in racing. It truly is impressive how fast those cars are. They look fast on TV. They look even faster when you see it in person. There are a lot of marathons and different runs here in Indy if you are a runner. The Indy Mini Marathon, which is associated with the 500, is something that a lot of our faculty and fellows participate in every year, and it's something a lot of people come from all over the country to enjoy. Symphony on the Prairie is one of my favorite things to do in the summer. Basically, we're one of the few cities in the nation that actually has a full-time symphonic orchestra, and they'll do this series of outdoor summer concerts where you just bring your chair, your picnic basket, whatever you want to drink, and enjoy a night of good music. It's a lot of fun. We have the Eagle Creek Park, where there's opportunities to go kayaking right here in the Indianapolis area. And the Monon Trail is a trail that runs from Broad Ripple all the way up to, I think, 161st Street now. They've lengthened it, which if you're not from here doesn't mean a whole lot, but suffice it to say, it's a very long trail, it's paved, and it's great for biking, walking, any of those things. And if you're hungry at various spots along that trail, you'll see some different restaurants, ice cream spots, pizza and beer, whatever you want to get. So lots of fun things to do that way. And we also have a decent number of good restaurants. St. Elmo's is probably the most famous restaurant we have here in Indy. And one of the things they're most famous for is their shrimp cocktail with the horseradish sauce. Well, I hope going through some of these slides has answered a lot of the questions that you have, and you have a better sense of what it would look like to be a fellow here at Indiana University. We are very much, again, looking forward to seeing you next week, answering any additional questions you might have, and we will see you then.